Good morning, afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, on this smashing Saturday for what is going to be nothing short of a bullish daily market update. We are going to be looking at multiple charts that, to me, are signaling a major move for the cryptocurrency space is coming over the next few weeks and months. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin. I think this has set up trend continuation structure in the name of a falling wedge, and there are falling wedges quite simply everywhere, whether it's MicroStrategy that we've looked at that gave us an inkling that the Bitcoin bottom in regards to this pullback was coming, whether it's Coinbase, whether it's the altcoin sector, mainly the ISO coins all looked prime. Some have broken out of their falling wedges. And you guys remember on the back end of December's run, we looked at 15, 16 altcoins that we said were going to do very well. Many of them actually completed their falling wedge targets, the likes of HBAR, XLM, many of them out there. And we're saying the same thing's happening again today. And I think that's interesting given what's happening geopolitically with the tariffs and economically. I guess they're both one in the same thing with the tariffs. To kick things off before we get into all that, this is absolutely a video not to miss, guys. There was news, and this is from Walter Bloomberg. The Federal Reserve absolutely ready to help stabilize markets if needed. Top official says, and this is from FT, and actually this is, I think, from the Boston Federal Reserve. This is bound to happen, and this isn't in response to, when they're talking about stabilize the markets, they're not talking about the stock market, they're talking about the bond market, and we're seeing yields do the opposite of what perhaps they'd want them to do and what would typically happen. There's this interesting thing going on with the bond market, whereas it's not acting in its usual manner when there's fears of a recession. In fact, it's doing the opposite. And that's essentially what they're talking about. But that predominantly is going to come in the form of QE in regards to supporting the bond market, buying it and bringing those yields down. I'm going to do a video later on this week, or perhaps not later on this week because it's Sunday tomorrow, but certainly in the near future, talking about just why the United States is going to adopt stablecoins, because they need to introduce a new buyer to the treasuries. Tether, I think, was, if you look at it as a country, it was the 7th largest country in the world in regards to buyer of treasuries. And they're going to amplify that. It's going to help bring interest rates down, in my opinion. And also, at the same time, boost dollar dominance globally. In fact, I think you are going to see countries entirely just say, we'll use the dollar instead of whatever currency they have. And that's part of Brent Johnson's milkshake theory. But this is interesting. And it's certainly interesting given what we're going to talk about in just a second in regards to what I'm looking at the charts. I've got many to show with you. This has been something I've been discussing with my group now. Also, and I like Julian Bittle's dollar scenario for 2017, very much played out. We've been looking at that, and we've said that's going to have a positive correlation with risk assets. It perhaps hasn't quite translated into being a perfect seesaw, but I think that effect is coming. But here he's looking at M2 with a 12-week lead. Now, lots of people using different leads here. M2 is money supply. Bitcoin is Bitcoin versus the dollar. You would think when the money supply rises, because inflation is purely a monetary policy phenomenon, that when the money system inflates, you'd think that Bitcoin would go with it. And that seems to be the case. And all of this is happening at a time when we have US consumer confidence at the lowest level in 45 years. And I would actually say this is more bullish than it is bearish. These typically time great entries. And then when we come over to the crypto charts, we'll start with Bitcoin. You guys know I think Bitcoin is still in an uptrend. There's no technical, and this is still a bull market for Bitcoin. There's no technical analyst that can look at a weekly chart for Bitcoin and tell you anything but. Okay? In my opinion, this is just a pullback that's going to lead to continuation, coming in and around the 30-weekly moving average. In an uptrend, I don't need to sort of explain uptrends to everybody, but the pullbacks that you get, and we'll use like an Elliott wave count. This isn't just a basic uptrend. The pullbacks that you get are descending in nature, and they're ascending in a downtrend. Usually on these pullbacks, you'll get some form of structure, whether it's this bull flag that we looked at that we knew continuation was coming out of the back end of, or whether it's what we're going to look at right now in the form of a falling wedge. Okay. There we go. We left the draw on that. In the name of a falling wedge. And I ultimately think that this could be real continuation pattern that's going to see you attack new all-time highs and see this sector move more broadly in the direction I believe it's going to. There's a lot happening for Bitcoin. I get not everyone's a fan of Bitcoin, but it's a very integral part to this entire space. And I think it's very exciting from the points of view in how it's going to fare in this kind of new economic world that we're moving toward, digital era, and how it's going to be viewed as an asset and included in portfolios. I recently interviewed some of the top guns at 21 Shares, and we were all very much on the side that, Bitcoin's very early in its journey, despite it being at 83K. And that, I still believe, is going to be the tide that rises and sinks all ships. So this really could just be a continuation pattern. Your volatility certainly restricting in regards to the moves and constricting. I think there could be an expansion here. But this is a really bullish sign to see, given the context of the trend that we're already in. And this could just be a continuation structure. And then we're going to start attacking those broader targets that we have. It's not just Bitcoin. There's a whole host of other things that lead me to believe this. This is Coinbase, which is one of my largest stock holdings. We're hundreds of percent up on this. Our average buys are in the sort of $40, $60, $70 range. I've got a community of people that can attest to that. Do consider becoming a Patreon. We've got a meeting tomorrow where we're going to be going over a lot of this in a lot more detail. But this could now be a reversal sign for Coinbase, which is in a broader uptrend. And it's been brutal, but there still hasn't been really any trend invalidation here. And obviously we've got this on log, so off log, so we take it off log. We've still got a higher target of 413 for Coinbase that I think you're going to reach. This has been a great chart for us technically. You've also got a lot of your altcoins like XDC, one of the ISO coins. I've got a video on this coming out later. Very, very textbook falling wedge. And I want to show you a few more because we kind of use the saying here, when it walks, talks, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And I think you've got multiple things happening on the macro that are confirmed by the micro, being the technical charts for the altcoins, that are ultimately pointing a great few weeks, months ahead of us. Certainly technically we have all the merit for that in the world, not just with Bitcoin, crypto related stocks, which we're going to look at in a bit more detail, and many altcoins. Let's get into some more of these. To start off with Aave. I'm actually looking into some DeFi sort of strategies at the moment. Can I, in a safe manner, which safe and crypto kind of don't go together too well, but can I come up with a way to perhaps borrow and then lend some crypto, or lend and then borrow some crypto, and perhaps increase my position by 50% in a safe-ish manner? Well, it's all things to explore. I don't recommend anybody does anything like that, but I think DeFi is going to play an interesting role in this kind of digitized, tokenized world that we move towards. But Aave looks great, and it looks ready for continuation. Remember what we just looked at with Bitcoin. Algorand, we did a video on this last night. Again, we've got falling wedge signs here that ultimately lead me to believe that this has got some pretty serious upside ahead of it. XLM, personal favorite of mine. This looks textbook. This also aligns with macro support from a weekly point of view. We've got Chainlink, which looks pretty spectacular. Another big position of mine. Ondo, this is actually broken out of its falling wedge and is likely going to see real continuation to the upside. Dogecoin, for you memers out there. I think meme coins, I'm no good at meme coins, so I don't play in that sphere, but I think they are going to do well. MicroStrategy, another crypto stock. We've looked at this on a number of occasions. I think this is going to pay off, and we've used this as an early inkling to the pullback being over for the crypto space. Solana, looking good. Shiba, pretty much broken out and ready for continuation, in my opinion. And of course, we've got Hedera, which is on the cusp of a breakout and continuation. So we are unbelievably bullish on the cryptocurrency space right now. From a technical point of view, and remember I said this, in the next few weeks, you are going to have major runs, and we're already seeing some of them pop off, major runs for many of the altcoins out there. Certainly the ones that we're talking about, and we're giving you technical merit for expecting that for. Buckle up. And this is all happening when you've got the Fed coming out and saying what they're saying. We had a good CPI print on Thursday. The M2 and, there's resolve in regards to tariffs, or at least a step towards that. And I think we're going to see what the markets are priced in get undone, because they're priced in the worst situation. Of course, people have to adjust for risk, but I think there's going to be a revelation in regards to all that. So in M2, and then we look at the charts and we're seeing what we're seeing technically. I'm telling you, you are going to have a great few weeks and months ahead of you based on technically what we're looking at in the charts. There are bullish patterns on the smaller time frames that are going to be proven to be continuation patterns in this bull market all over the shop. You've got to be in it to win it, guys. I know this has been a tough start to the year for many people out there, but this is crypto. I think your patience will be rewarded, and I actually think it's a good thing when we kind of shake off a lot of the, I'm not going to call them paper hands because I think that's a little bit condescending, but weaker players, and that's the law of the jungle, you know, and that's what markets very much abide by. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Get ready for a good couple of weeks and months. See you all in the flip side.